Someone new? Can you introduce yourself? How long you've been at this church? And just general introduction. So enthusiastic. I know we all suffer through it. Either or. Oh, 미네요. My Hanguk is really bad, just so you know. But whatever is comfortable to you. Hmm? Mm. Hmm? Ooh, welcome. Okay, cool. Nice to meet you too. Glad you're able to join us. This session will be less academic. It's going to be more experiential. It's more conversational. So what I plan to do is I want to share how my church handled the pandemic, and then I want to kind of go around and ask, hey, welcome. I know, just in time. So if you don't mind, what's your name? How long you been at this church for? And yeah.
I'm Michael Lee.
Hi, Mike Lee.
Been here 3 years now?
Okay.
Yeah, 3 years. And what was that again?
That was it. Yeah.
Cereal flavor?
Sure. What's your favorite cereal?
I'm boring. I like, what is it? The blueberry something cereal from, I can't remember the brand. But
Blueberry.
yeah, it's
Okay.
a lot of fiber.
Nice. Oh, nice websites.
Trying to keep up with it.
Nice.
Oh, okay, I'll say it again.
Yeah, don't be scared. As I was saying, this session is less of a lecture and more of a conversation because none of us are really experts at the pandemic. It's more what we've done and what we experienced, and hopefully we can learn from each other the pros and cons of it. For us at my church, the pandemic hit us in March. This was March 22nd. 20 was the first time that we did not have service online. I mean, for in person. Our church, my church that I served at, that I'm currently serving at, we had no online capability at the time. We had no camera. I would record it via the audio system into like a AV converter. We would turn it to MP3, would upload it to our website, and that was it. So we had audio only of the messages. We never had anything else. And so the week I was told on a Tuesday during staff meeting that we're not going to have on-site worship for the foreseeable future, create an online service. And so that week we bought a camera, we bought a computer. And when I say we, I mean me. They just gave me like, here's like 10,000, figure it out. So we got a computer. Me and my assistant pastor, we figured out OBS software. I don't know if you know what OBS is, but we did OBS to be able to stream. I'm a big PowerPoint pastor. You'll see tomorrow maybe. But I had to change all that to OBS, and I have like events that go, I have like 50 events in one sermon kind of thing. It was a big hassle, but we got it done. The problem is that because no one really knew the effects of the pandemic, and there's a lot of fear early on, and I knew my congregation, my praise team were mainly young married, most of them had kids, and I didn't want them to come to church. And so I said, you know what? I can do it by myself. And so I set up a keyboard in front of me, and I had the one camera, and I bought one of those little lights, those lights that 45-degree angle hit you in the face, and without skipping a beat, because from one Sunday we were on site, the next Sunday we were online for the first time, March 22nd. I was like a YouTube star. And I was here, I was playing keyboard for worship, did our best to do, we do like the Apostles' Creed, I do my message. I was the one-man show. And that lasted for about 6 months or so. 6 months. June 7th, finally, originally I had no one else helping out because everyone was afraid of the pandemic. I didn't want to stress anybody out. And I thought it would last like 2 months. I thought this pandemic won't last that long. In June, we had a little dip or whatever. For some reason, numbers were going down for a little bit. I don't know why, but then we came back. We had a hybrid service. So we had on-site worship June 7th. I was finally able to have praise team come one time to do that. And we lasted for like 5 weeks, and then we had to go back to online service. But in those 5 weeks that we had on-site hybrid, I was able to actually talk to my leaders, okay, like, you know what, this is going to last longer. I can't do this forever, because I felt like I was burning out, obviously, being the one-man show. And so talking to our leaders, okay, what can we do? Praise team was willing to record if they had the right equipment. And so I bought everyone AV, audio, video, converters so that they can record. All the audio equipment and praise team equipment that I could give them, I gave it to them. Like, take this home. and I gave them mics and things. And then even people that needed some video editing software, I helped out with there as well. And they started to make their own worship sets that were filmed at their homes, and then our praise leader would edit it together into this lovely, collage of people leading worship. And it was not bad. It's not like award-winning Emmy stuff, but it was not bad. And the fact for me to have them serve was amazing. I took a big load. So praise was finally being done by someone else, but for the most part, it was just me and my assistant pastor and my wife helping me out here and there. And there's some amazing things that happened. So initially, it was just Sunday service. People, just Sunday service only. We canceled all events. But the need for small groups was still huge. People want to have some connection, and they realized the importance of connection. And so we started doing Zoom cell groups. I gave everyone a Zoom account that was my leader. Try it out. For the older generation, it was a little bit harder. I had to teach the leader how to set it all up, but we got it done. And as amazing for me to experience was that instead of meeting every other week, our cell group, some of them meet only once every 3 weeks. They wanted to meet every week. They wanted to meet every single week. And for those that know Zoom, it forces you to wait for one person to speak and listen. One person speaks and listens. And people were starting to hear one another for the first time. So for some of these small groups, you would have maybe 10 or 12 people. And most of them were kind of clickers. You have like those four and those four and those four. But then to sit and to listen, we had people that never joined a cell group want to join a cell group just because they were in need of people contact. And so our small group system actually grew during this pandemic. More often, more people, more Zoom accounts. But that lasted for, as of right now, currently, but now we're slowly transitioning on site. In the middle of some of this, people got sick of Zoom. For us, as a service on Sunday, we would stream on YouTube, and it would be the only interaction with them would be via chatting before and after. We have 2 services at my church, and I did my best to have 2 live services. So I did not stream and then restreamed. I did it whole live. But I would type with them, "Hi, welcome," and then after the service, "Glad you're able to come," and we have these little conversations, right? Chat. And so one of my leaders was like, "Hey, let's try a Zoom." And so we actually figured out how to do Zoom on top of YouTube at the same time. So those that want to come can come to the worship and look at each other as they worship God, which was a hit and miss, But for those that wanted it, they had it. The idea was, okay, we want to give as much options as possible. And so we did that for a time. People that thought it was too awkward, they never came. Now, May 2nd is when we had our first on-site worship again. So from March of 2020 to June of 2020, we had online only. Then we had like 5 weeks of hybrid. Then we went back to online only from July 19th all the way to now. And then May 2nd is when we finally came back, and we have our first on-site, still hybrid. And we're going to be hybrid for the rest of the year. We made that very clear. There are some people that enjoy the flexibility. We have 2 services, 9:45, 11:30. Our 11:30 service used to be the bigger service. We used to have more people at the 11:30 service, and then 9:45 was smaller. During the pandemic, it switched. We have now more people come to 9:45 because they don't have to get up and dress up. They can just turn it on. They can have the rest of the afternoon. And so on-site right now, we only have the 9:45 on-site, and we have about now 20 people coming, which has been pretty good. As soon as people are saying that once more vaccines have come for kids, that they'll probably open up the 11:30 service probably in June or July. But we're slowly going hybrid. Big changes that we're still going to continue for the rest of the year, Zoom, because it's been so popular, Zoom. Now, it doesn't mean that it's the only thing. During the pandemic, if people were okay, and this is prior to vaccines, we would have we call a tailgating small group, where you go to a parking lot. We go picnics, these outdoor. We did those kind of things as well. We had Christmas events. We did mixer through Zoom, a Christmas event. We try to do some other mixers. In our young married family, we love to go gender specific. Like we start together, and then all women would go to one, and all husbands go to another. It was hard to do that during the pandemic, but we figured it out with phones, and so we got everyone used to doing Zoom on their phones. And so the husband would go to the bathroom, and the wife would stay in the bedroom or something, and we were able to make it work. And for some of them, they liked that. They kind of like that kind of individual, personal, but yet still being in a familiar place. And so a lot of that we're going to still continue. But we're slowly transitioning back to on-site worship. Some things that helped me, that really encouraged me during the pandemic. One of the leaders, with the help of my wife and some other volunteers, they made cutout pictures of my members life size, the cardboard cutouts to put them in the pews. I can't tell you how amazing it was. Like for the first 6 months, it was just like the one man show, and I was feeling all sad because there's like empty pews. Imagine like a place of 100 people, zero, and there's just like cold camera looking at you, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, just like ugh. But to have like cardboard cutouts, and they're all smiling because most people, when they're during a sermon, they start smiling, but then some of them nod off. Some of them like get if they don't like the message, they kind of look whatever. But when it's like all cardboard cutouts, everyone is like taking a picture, like they all smile, and so I had like a room full of smiling cardboard cutout pictures, and so I really that was a big encouragement. I'm actually going to keep a lot of those cardboard cutouts just in case, just for the fun of it, for my encouragement. Um, but yeah, that's how we have done the pandemic at my church. It started off as like the one man show. It slowly built to praise team and other leaders joining in. Cell groups being a big part of my church. It's been a lot of Zoom meetings, more so than a lot. And now we're finally coming back, still keeping some elements, but yeah, doing our best to return. What I'm curious with, because I don't talk to many churches about their pandemic and how it was. How was this church the first several months of the pandemic? Was the big obviously change, obviously, but how did you deal with that change? Anyone? March 2020. What was that like?
Well, I remember, trying to remember how we like started it off, because I think when I think about it now, it just felt like we've been doing it for such a while that it's kind of like almost like natural in a sense. But at the start, I think we didn't really have anyone that was very, I would say, very familiar with all like audio, video, these kinds of things. I mean, obviously, I'm sure for a lot of churches too, they unless they were doing it like a church where they do like multiple sites or something like that, streaming online like that. But we never did that before, so we had a few people in the EM, like previous EM pastor, Pastor Jacob, and we have two other pastors, myself included, and we were just trying to do what we can. We didn't have equipment. I remember we were looking at equipment, what to buy, what to get, um, and it was just more like, all right, let's just get this and see what that does. Um, like you mentioned OBS, I think we started off with that, and then we also looked at like different ones as well. It was a lot of trial and error, a lot of trial and error. Remember praise team, it was just as junior. He was the one that's just leading on his own, and really just his commitment from the very first service when we were recording or going live stream. It was just him, just consistently, just and even now. And so
He actually had other members that helped out,
they did,
and then they
yeah,
got more scared,
yeah,
and then they
yeah,
just
yeah,
kind of backed off, and he's like, no,
yeah,
and then he became a one-man show
yeah.
for quite a bit.
At the start, yeah, we did have a few more members, but
So he would record the praise set separately as a video. He would
yeah.
be on site. I see.
Yeah. So initially, when we started off, it was live streaming. But then, from what I remember, we switched to recording on a Saturday. I think at the start, there were just so many issues that came about. It was either audio or video or something every single time we did it. And so I think the decision went to, okay, let's just move into recording it on Saturdays, and then we'll use like YouTube or something to live stream it on that time on Sunday. And so, I mean, we didn't have any people coming out and things like that. All events were canceled. Um, yeah, just remember, I actually looked at the YouTube, our English Ministries YouTube page channel, and I went back and just out of curiosity, went to the very first video that we did in March, and you could see that there was a difference in the audio and video as well, and so how we've come a long way from since then, you can definitely see. I actually saw a difference in that as well. Um, but yeah, just the people, the pastors, ministers, just people just doing what they can to try to, all right, that doesn't work, what can we do it? Or they would just go on YouTube themselves and just learn it on their own and try officially, but the original plan was to kind of like slowly transition where from recording and then we'll do live service on Sunday at that time at 11 o'clock,
Okay.
but still with no people. That was the original plan. But then when people heard that we were doing it live now on Sunday, it's not recorded on Saturdays anymore, I think there were like interested people thinking, I remember I got a lot like, hey, can we come out? So I think people were kind of like wanting to, I think. And so we just kind of had just people join on
see.
Sunday. I think right now we're still live streaming with in-person services. I think maybe we have maybe 20 or 25.
I haven't been counting. It's been consistently about 30.
Oh, 30, okay, yeah,
so.
yeah. So around that number right now. I mean, as you mentioned as well, most who do come out, they don't have like young kids or like other kids where where we can't really at the moment have that children's program, things like that. But we are in the works right now, planning for it. But hoping that once all those things are happening, more people will be able to come out. But yeah, that's how they've been doing it so far.
I'm curious for those that experienced the last, year plus of this. What was the greatest challenge? But what was also the greatest? Any like win? Anything that was like for me, the small group thing, I didn't see coming. I didn't think that would be a huge thing, but the need for human connection was more evident. The pandemic made that more clear, just how important it was to connect, and so that was a win for our church. And so, what was like a big challenge, but what was a big win? Yeah.
Even though the meeting was different, one of the reasons why I was attracted to joining FKBC early on is because it was the only church in the area that was doing small groups. Even though it was done virtually, I mean, it was a group that I was able to get plugged into really quick. I think I had like lunch with Pastor Jacob on a Tuesday. He said, "Hey, we do this on Fridays," and I started joining that week and been consistently joining since. And so just the fact that they offered something that a lot of the local churches in the area just weren't doing, I think that was like a win. And I think during this time, I wasn't the only one, but there was a couple of newcomers who ended up just joining and being a part of this. And yeah, it's just unique. I know there's one couple that currently live in Canada, but they were able to join every Friday.
Nice.
And so it was just really interesting.
So what was amazing is when we did open up and do the live streaming and people started coming out, the new people that I saw, they've been members we didn't even know. They've been watching the videos, and yeah, I've been watching since March or whatever, and I was like, wow, and they acted like I'm part of this church, and I was like, I don't know you, but it was so neat to watch, to meet people that that were coming in, and they were consistently watching every Sunday.
I think piggybacking off of the observation here, like I think our interactions and our ability to welcome translated well, even remotely. Because I remember coming here 3 years ago, and that was one of the things that really spoke to me and my family was like, wow, like this community, like, I mean, it's like all different age groups and, generations and stuff like that. But we just felt really welcomed and pursued, as far as relationships go. And so I felt like even when we did shift, it shifted well virtually too. And so like even like for our small group, like we have been meeting consistently, although like my family hasn't consistently joined because we're like, oh, we're so burnt out.
Right.
But like, the leaders have stayed consistent, and I think also, when there's a need or an understanding that there's, people who are trying to join or plug in, like people still reach out, either individually or let the leader know and be like, hey, this is a new family that is interested, we should really reach out and have them, join kind of on like on a game night or something something where it's a little bit more casual and
Right.
fellowship like. So
Okay.
yeah, that's been nice.
So the small groups have continued. Was there ever a time when it did not? When you felt like we could not do small group? Maybe in the early '80s? No, it's just continued on. How was that done? Was that done via Zoom? So people knew about Zoom and all that stuff before. Okay.
It's been difficult for the small group with the kids, because usually when you guys met, the kids were kind of, you guys.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah. So our small group had like I think 13 kids pre-COVID, right? And so this is nice because it's like everybody's in bed, and so it's like the adults like, yeah, uninterrupted just conversations and just kind of catching
How
up.
many boys you have in there?
Yeah,
13
it's a
kids.
ton of boys. Yeah, I think it's like four girls, and nine
Nine
boys.
boys.
So it's kind of nice, yeah, because like, I think that was kind of needed, where it's like us parents going through COVID and transitions in jobs and school. It was nice to just, okay, kids are in bed now. We can just kind of lament and just kind of hold each other up in these tough times. So that was really nice. And also, I also have to credit children's ministry. Like that was amazing. And the children's ministry right now has also transitioned to Zoom, where a teacher leads the children's ministry class, and that's been kind of nice because, again, I don't know what the level of individual interaction was, pre-COVID. But now I feel like, all the kids come on and they're able to, kind of be called out, or, they're used to it because of school. They're like, hey, raise your hand if you want to speak,
Yeah.
And they're doing that, and I feel like there's this kind of, interaction and bond. So hopefully, the transition back won't be too strange. I think it's more like psychological, because I know we have some kids who are just
Okay.
like, germaphobe, I'm gonna die. Like myself.
So the sermons are for the children's, the service with the sermon and the praise is all pre-recorded.
Okay.
But the teachers would actually do Google Classroom, and then the kids will join that classroom, and then the teacher will share the sermons she would share it, and then everybody watches it together, like as if they're actually in service together.
Nice.
And then the Sunday school resumes right after the sermon, and then according to each class.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the teachers were telling me that the service is at 11, but these kids will come on at 10:30, and they want to talk. They just want to, they're just amazed at how early some of these kids want to go on in there, and they're just missing that interaction. And when they have it in public school, the virtual, they don't get this individual attention from their teachers, but they're getting it from the Sunday school teachers. And that was the feedback I was getting from yeah.
Have you guys talked about coming back out of the pandemic? Like for the adult ministry, for us, it seems easy. We just do hybrid service. So if you want to come, you come online. You can go online. But for us, our churches right now is talking about what do we do with education? Can we do a hybrid service? And so youth said yes, we can do a hybrid service. Children said maybe, and they're working on it. Preschool was like no. It's like we either all come back or we don't, because of how, I guess, the individual touch. And so has the church been talking about what does the education service look like, like post-pandemic?
2 weeks, hybrid, children's. Yeah.
Is it only for after 2 weeks? Then
After 2 weeks, they're supposed to sign up now for, the sign-up sheets are gonna have gone out, yeah.
okay.
The parents are supposed to sign up. We don't know what the response is, how many people are gonna come back, but the teachers are willing to, they're all vaccinated. They're
Mm.
willing to come in, have live and via computer, the other virtual students
Okay.
join. And then, still have the pre-recorded sermons, and then still conduct a virtual / live.
Okay. Interesting.
Sign-up base is
Yeah, so if there's
only
too
from
many.
K through fifth grade.
Okay.
Youth and preschool, no plans yet.
And the parents that you've talked to, they're okay. Is there like we've had parent meeting, like PTAs, long meetings about when to open and what to do and the safety stuff. So how are the parents receiving?
Surveys going out
Okay.
Sunday.
Good. Probably the biggest challenge for us last summer was VBS. And I think our children's pastor, with the help of various EM adults and things, we talked about it for a long time, and we did like a fully online. We mailed packages to the kids and their families. We had made sure to create virtual rooms that they can go from one to the other. It was a long process, but it was actually very well received. This year, we're going to still do it. They said that we're going to do virtual this time because it was more successful, and there's like familiarity with it, and with the fear of the, we have VBS is preschool to elementary for us. There are kids that just aren't vaccinated because they can't, right? So, how did your church? Did you cancel VBS or did you? Oh, you did VBS.
Scheduled for July. It's gonna go virtual.
Yeah, it was really good. So I remember, so I have a 2.5, a 5, and a 7-year-old. And the 5-year-old was supposed to transition from preschool to children's ministry. And the moms, I think some of the moms and teachers, they got together and like drove to like every kid's house and did like a graduation robe and like hat thing and said, "Hey, congratulations." So that was really nice. And then the VBS was nice because I think we had distributed it through the small group leaders. Because I think the leaders were like, "Hey, we're gonna go to church and pick up these VBS packets. Let us know, who wants to, participate."
Right.
And so they grabbed it, and then we all just kind of drove to their house and picked up the packages, and then everything was online. So that was really nice because, yeah, summer break. My wife was like, "I want a coffee break. Go watch it on YouTube." And so she got a little break, and there was crafts and stuff. So that was really well received, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are doing it virtual again this year. Yeah, July.
Cool.
Yeah, one of the things that the children's ministry was doing at our church, they did a lot of like drive-through events where we'd give like hot chocolate and then gifts. Like for Easter, we gave everyone palm branches, but they had to come and drive through to the church parking lot, and it was like a little craft that was like actually a branch from a palm branch, and so to get more kids involved and get people in a safe way to be participating in church, I thought that was great. What's I don't know. What's the challenge? These are all great things. What has been the hard things? What has been the difficult things?
Food withdrawal for a lot of the small group. Because a lot of the small group draw is we do a lot of eating every week.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're meeting via Zoom with no food, and it's just pretty dry. It's just like, but so I was afraid we were gonna have a lot of people fall off. But then the discussions got, I felt like deeper. It got deeper, like maybe like what you're saying, we have to talk one at a time and we have to listen to each other. But it was a very, very good support. Yeah. But when we get together, I always hear what a challenge it was for the parents with the children. They had to adjust the times because put the kids to bed, and or some they're just going crazy because they're on Zoom. Like he would be on Zoom meetings all day, and they don't want to be
Zoom
on other. Yeah, just zoomed out.
Yeah.
And so that's the bad part.
Anybody else?
Some members despise online meetings, so they don't come because they want that physical interaction.
See.
So some people are not used to online meetings. It doesn't work for them.
When it comes to the pandemic, it's definitely something we can't prepare for it. We can't prepare for it. But and I remember in California, there was just some very public churches that were against any kind of online, service. And at the same time, there are other churches that were totally for it. And my, personal philosophy is like we have to do our best so that someone can be saved. That's Apostle Paul in terms of being a missionary, right? Do our best so that someone could be saved. And I really believe that every church culture is different, and every church has their own type of cultural, own type of people. So it's kind of funny how similar that our churches have taken upon this in terms of the online and the VBS and things. But yeah, I personally am excited to start coming back. But I think for my congregation, it'll take a long time. Yeah.
Is that just like, is that a challenge because of like local laws, or is it just, experience, like what they're experiencing?
Right. So for our church on the CAM side is predominantly elderly. We have a large Korean population, but we're known as the older church, and so a lot of them are in their 60s and older. And so we were one of the first to close because of the fear towards the elderly. It seemed like it was like the elder pandemic for a while. Now that they're all vaccinated, they want to come back, but then now the fears with kids, and so there's like a big challenge there. And in general, my congregation is very conservative, and so they want to, and they're very thoughtful. They're thinking about, okay, and we're a 3-generational church, and so their grandparents may be vaccinated, but we don't want the little kid, right? And so because of that, we've been one of the last churches to be opening on site. And the numbers that have come, it's been great. Those that have come, it's been amazing. Like the first service on site, I never smiled as much in my life I preached on face to face because this idea of eye contact, like there's a personal there, there's an intimacy there, right? And I missed it so much. But at the same time, there's still a big fear there, right? And so as a pastor and as a leader, you have to be considerate, right? As thoughtful as you can. And I don't want anyone to, like, was Apostle Paul talking about, food that you eat that's offered to the idol, if it causes someone to stop, but you don't do it. And so I'm doing my best to try to cater to both. So you do the online as best as you can, and you do the on-site as best as you can. The lasting effects, I still don't know. That's the fear. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, right? But at the same time, there's been some really good things from it. I think that connectiveness, this realization that we are made to be in relationship with people and how important people is, and I think that kind of rang true. I think for we as a culture, we tend to be really busy. We want to fill our lives with stuff. That suddenly, when that's taken away, and we realize, okay, who am I? Like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? Right? There's these questions. I had a lot of people in the beginning of the pandemic. I had asked a lot of spiritual questions, like who I am, how I was made, what is this for? A lot of questions of why did this happen? What's the purpose of this? A lot of big, deep, personal, theological, philosophical questions that I think a lot of us we avoid because we're so busy with this, that, and the other. But the pandemic, for the good of it, actually made people question and ask. And I remember as a preacher, I preached a lot on Genesis, what the fall meant, what sin meant, what does that look like? And then a lot of the hope that we get is eternity, is this idea of this place that never changes, the Alpha Omega, the first and last, the thing that there is no suffering, no pain, and no hardship. And this is just something that will pass. This thing will just pass. And so a lot of the messages early on were about, encouraging to look upward, encouraging to see the things that do not change. And just because it changes here, we should hold on to that which does not change. And so it was actually a lot of spiritual growth that happened at the early set of this pandemic. A lot of good relationships that increased because they saw the desire for that during the pandemic. But some of the hardships has been that there have been some similar where they will not do an online worship. And there are some who I guess maybe if church was there, they would come. But now that there is no church to come to, they felt comfortable not to even go to any kind of service. And I don't know if they will come back. And there's my church is similar size, right? In terms of, and our technology is similar. I don't have any smog and lasers and, I'm not wearing makeup and I have 720p resolution, right? It's not the best, right? So I knew a lot of people that started going to other online churches because it was easier, it was better produced, it was all those little audio video headaches, they don't have them because they've done it for years and years and years. So I don't know about that as well. So those are big mysteries.
Was there a shift or challenges to like pastoral care?
Yeah.
Like I imagine, knowing personally what we've gone through as a family.
Right.
But from a pastor's perspective, did that change or like what
Yes.
have been some of the challenges there?
Yeah, as a pastor side, it's been incredibly challenging because most of us in seminary were never taught to be a YouTube star, so we don't know what that's like. So learning all the technical side has been a big challenge. For me, a lot of my ministry pre-pandemic was lunches, house visitations, a lot of ministry done at hospitals because that's, I say the best part of pastor, you see people born, you're there at weddings. The worst part of pastors, you're there at the funeral. You know, you see it the best moments and the saddest moments. And for me, the best ministry is in those moments when you're face to face with, the sinfulness of this world, and that's mortality, right? We feel the awfulness of death. And for a long time, I wasn't allowed to go into a hospital. For a long time, I couldn't, like, it would be like via a Zoom camera, we would have a funeral service. And that was like the hardest thing, to see faces via Zoom or via iPad. That personal touch was incredibly challenging. Not to pray with someone and hold their hand. Like, I can do my best to convey emotion to a camera, but you feel it here, right? If we like breathe, and it could change the mood just by a body gesture, just by a look in the eye, and you don't get that virtually. So I felt tremendously, I guess, guilty. I felt like I'm not doing my best, that there are people who are suffering even more, and I can't minister to them, right? So it was incredibly, incredibly challenging. And the consequences I don't know. Like, how many people have been lost because of this in terms of, left? Those that have been plugged into the pandemic cell groups, and those people that love cell groups, I know them. I know all of them by name because I see them, and I join those small groups every other month or so. I try to join a different one. Sometimes I lead a couple of them too. And I know all those people, and those guys are plugged in. So of my congregation, about 50% are plugged into a small group. I know there's a handful that are plugged into education ministry. There's a handful that plugged into other CAM ministries. But other than, there's like a good 40%, I don't know. I have no idea. I've done some cold calls. I do some emails. They respond back. Some of them very short, some of them very long, but it's hard to connect. So there's a huge question about how many of our members are really our members still. So it's a big question. So yeah, it's been tough pastor-wise, and not just pastors, but the leaders of our church who also help me to shepherd people and to reach out to people. There's that Zoom fatigue is real. And so some people, they're in college, they have Zoom classes all day long, or they work and it's like in front of a computer all day long. So yeah, that's been the hardships. Any hardships for you in terms of, the ministry that you said you do web ministry, right?
Yeah,
But has it been like more active because of it?
no, I just, like, where's the link? That's the extent of my. Why isn't this up? The announcements were, that's it. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's been good. I think the challenge there, I mean, also because of the transition that we're in, it was like, how do we convey our ministry and tell the story of our ministry without a head EM pastor,
Right.
as of right now, and trying to share that we're actively still meeting and still thriving, but that the story, I guess, is not complete, right? I mean, Pastor Sue has stepped in and done an incredible job, but I think it's kind of like a bittersweet kind of situation, right? Because it's like the moment the new KM head pastor came, Pastor Jacob had to call in to go to Texas, like everything shut down, right? So it was kind of like we were almost insulated, I think, from the experience. But then, yeah, I am curious about like people who did find us online, like what sort of, relationship or just kind of touch point that looks like, have we done a good enough job? And, like once they see the website, are they able to get enough information to feel like, hey, community? Because I feel like our in-person community pre-COVID was great because we had, like Christmas programs and, praise nights and stuff like that. And, yeah, being part of a immigrant Korean church, you always have a meal afterwards. You're always hungry afterwards, but
Yeah.
you have a meal, right? And that in itself is like you said, it's something that you just can't have virtually.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's kind of.
Hey, Pete.
Coffee and bread tomorrow.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Fellowship.
Peter, can you share some like insight from the leadership side of things? Like for us, we were so slow to open up because the leadership talked and they knew the congregation. And even now, like there's all these different things where like we still do temperature checks. We're gonna make sure that everyone has like masks, and we're gonna give masks if they need to. There's all these little logistic stuff that they've talked about and said, okay, we're gonna open up at this time and not this time. We're gonna do this but not that. How is the KM side and how is the EM working with? How's their pandemic response has been in their decisions? If you could share a little insight.
So I think our pattern's been kind of following what the public school guidance is, and we kind of follow to match that. So, you know, so we're on the more on the cautious side too.
We were very conservative because of we do have quite an elderly population in the KM. And so I think other churches, I don't know, they were saying they were open, but we were not open. We were strictly virtual. And then it was just recently, we just kind of halfway opened. And then in June, it's a little bit more open, I guess. I don't know what it's a more open stage, I guess.
Governor, whatever governor says to.
Yeah, so now that we're vaccinated, more and more people are coming out. And it's kind of weird that you mentioned, I don't know, the KM also has a 9 o'clock service, the first service and the second service. The first service is more popular now. I don't know why. I think there was a reason why, wasn't there?
That's more in-person service.
In-person service, and the second service used to be bigger, but now it's definitely smaller. But there was a good reason, I forgot. You don't remember? Thanks for pointing out.
People had to get up and look nice.
Yeah, right.
No, but in actual in-person service,
Yeah.
the 9 o'clock is more booming than the second cleaning service.
Hmm.
Just kind of switched around. I don't know why.
So as I mentioned, for our church, we cancel all major events. I'm assuming that you canceled all major events during the has any of them opened up? Any of the missions? I know they're doing Kairos right now. Is there any plan for a summer mission? No, right? Okay.
They were going to do like a virtual VBS.
Okay.
Like the
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And then for like our young adult ministry,
Hmm.
I don't know if you count this a major event, but like our college night career fairs for our youth group and stuff like that. The youth ministry has been really good at, still trying to cater to the youth group, I think, at least from what I've seen. And then with the young adults, we have been trying to, still celebrate college graduates and all that fun stuff too. So I think, it's not like our bazaar or anything, but at least stuff that we can do virtually, we've tried to do virtually as well.
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself and the ministry that you serve in?
I'm Mary Beth. I serve in the young adult ministry and the children's ministry.
Welcome. For that college fair, you said called the Bazaar. Is that something you do every single year? Okay. And then you said this year was virtual, right? Okay. Okay. Does anyone know for the college ministry, like, are there people now coming from, wherever they are, East Coast or West Coast or North or South, because of the ability to do Zoom? Are there more people coming? Are there more people attending?
I don't know too much about, because I mostly do, before I did the intern,
Mm-hmm.
starting the Zoom, I was mostly just doing you.
Okay.
So I don't know too much about the college group on what that looked like. But from what I've heard, there were at least just people in the area or who were just in the local colleges here.
Mm.
For sure, they have a good amount of college students
Okay.
joining online and doing those small groups that we did for the past year. Just going through, I think we actually went through the book of Matthew for the
Nice.
past year, and then lots of college kids and also the young adults as well.
Okay.
Yeah, not much less. Yeah.
That's what we do is our college and young adults group, we would have the worship together and on Zoom, and then we would split up. Like we'd have the worship and go over that week's lesson.
Nice.
And then we would split off into our groups, so that took the onus off of both ministries to have to
It's like for us, we've had a lot more college people come because obviously with Zoom, you can be in a different country and still join the small group. But the challenge for us that we're talking now is what do we do as we come back? Because we have college people who are local and they want to eat out and they want to do things together. But then are we going to take a laptop with us and do the, like we don't know what they're doing. So that's a big challenge for us moving forward because our college ministry on paper is bigger than what it is on person. So, and that's also talk about what does it mean to be a church for us I consider ourselves a community church that we're ministering to the community. But during the pandemic, we gained like 4 people that are not within local driving distance of our church. Past relationships, that have moved out, but they've heard, and so they've joined us. And so we're talking amongst leaders, like, should we have an online permanent kind of ministry where we're reaching with people who may be moved out but are still connected with our church? That's another conversation we're having. I don't have any solutions because we're still in the middle of it, but that's something that we've been talking about as well. Nice. I was gonna say timing wise.
But I heard that he could do it in the evening.
Which is what time?
No idea.
Okay.
6 hours?
At first, I wasn't sure that he was like being completely honest when I asked him for his address and stuff. He's like, I'm in Switzerland. I'm like, what? Sometimes he just likes to, pretend.
Yeah.
But no, he's actually Switzerland.
That's really
International Bible study, nice. That's all I really had for any questions. I know again, this is not like any definitive answer. This is more like what did you do, and this is what I did. But then, any questions you want to ask me, or California churches in general?
California, or your California.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you say college, I mean, like here we have 3 major colleges.
Yes.
And like a handful of other colleges.
Right.
Well, what's the college kind of
Yeah.
demographic over there?
It depends where you are. For my church, our closest college is El Camino, which is a community college, and so we do have local college students there. But then we're like too far away from USC and too far away from UCLA to have an impact where they come drive here. And there's too many churches and too many campus ministries that they don't. And so it's been mainly the community college kids and those who, online for now or wherever, and they come join us. But yeah, because of that, our college ministry, as I was talking to someone, is small. It's smaller than most of the other churches. The church I serve in is more of a 3-generation. We're the older congregation. I got more guys in my 40s and 50s than I do in the 20s, kind of thing, which I actually like having that because they can get a lot of things done. When you're at that age, you can get a lot of things done. And there's so much wisdom and natural mentorship that happens when you have that all worshiping together and all serving together. So, but yeah, college ministry, it's small. At the same time, it's intimate. Like one time we did a road trip. One guy got a job in San Francisco, and we're like, let's encourage this. How can we encourage this? Let's send him a gift. Like, no, let's go a van, Airbnb. Let's spend a weekend. Let's do it. And so we all got in a van. We all rotated, driving that van. We went all the way up. We celebrated. We took pictures with him in his new job. It's this fancy, tech place where no one had offices, and then we drove all the way back. And that can only be done because there's only at the time only 6 were able to do it. Hey, we can all do it. So small doesn't mean it's bad. Small, it's more fun sometimes. You can be more creative. But yeah, that's college ministry for us. Pandemic stuff? Questions?
I wonder, what's the spiritual growth of the people watching it on the other side of it, at home on the sofa,
Right.
leisurely,
Right.
laid back and watching.
So I don't know specifically for everybody, but there are leaders, and as a pastor and I'm preaching, I'm trying to be intentional for the challenge of that week or that month. So I talked a lot about the pandemic for the first several months. It was in every illustration. And so, and since I joined small groups, you hear the conversations and you know exactly what they're going through. Work, suddenly you're at home and you have to juggle with where do I have my office time and how do I, you have to be in the kitchen or I'll be in the garage to have this. You have these people having arguments that they've never had and being with people that they're not used to being with, from kids to their spouses. And so you would hear about the challenges, you hear about the prayer requests, and so you would target. I would preach, I would target. What's the application? What's the principle scripturally? And so For the most part, what I've heard was positive. That as long as that they could block out that time and say, "Hey, this is my hour," and you don't know me yet, but then my services are like 55 minutes long. My sermons are like 20, 25 minutes. I don't preach long. I'm like in and out. And so they really appreciate that. And for them, they actually, those that worship and have been doing it consistently, they tell me it's their favorite time now. They look forward to it because the pandemic has been so isolating, and for them, they're always stuck at home for a long time that they yearn to have a moment where they could, spend a little time where it's not about all the stuff around them, but just about God. And so if the leadership is aware of that, and they are, and as a pastor, I'm thoughtful enough to hopefully preach them like I'm not preaching about like missions. I'm not saying you should go out to Cambodia. I'm not doing that in my message because Cambodia mission got canceled, and so we're not going to do that, right? And I'm not focusing on the abstract concepts. I was trying to focus on their need. And so for those that couch dwelling in their PJs, they have a good laugh about what their pandemic experience worship service is like, but then it's been good. Like for us, we had communion for the first time. We said, let's do communion at home. So it's like, okay, we don't have grape or bread to give to you because I don't think that's safe, but prepare any kind of product for the broken body of Christ. This is a symbolic gesture. Prepare any kind of drink. And then take a picture of it and post it on our YouTube because after service, because we had it during the service, the communion, people are sharing pictures of grape juice and crackers. Some had like real wine, like, very nice, wine glass. And it's like, it's for church, right? They like moments like that. That helps still to connect people. And then I think it made that special. And so I think for us as a congregation, there's been people that have embraced and welcomed it, and it's been a blessing for them. There are others, though, that miss the discipline of coming to church, of putting on their Sunday's best. There are people that, old school, they would like take their money and make sure that it's like crisp cash put in envelopes. They miss dropping it off. I remember we did online offering, and there was a big pushback. It's like, what? Online offering? And but over the months and months, now people have grown to accept it. But there's still, yes, there will be people that definitely miss that in person. And you can see it. The people that came to the on-site worship, that's what they loved it. You could see how much they loved it. And usually when I say amen to the benediction, everyone leaves to the kitchen, but we didn't have any food either, right? So they would usually leave and go home. But the first service back, they stayed for like an hour talking to each other. And it was so weird. I got so used to Zoom meetings where everyone's talking one at a time. To hear conversations in the background going at the same time, it threw me off. I was like, whoa, people are talking over there, and I can focus on this conversation over here. Oh, I'm going to drift around. I'll be back. And I was like, it was kind of fun. So there are people that it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, that was a long answer to your question. Any other questions? Yeah. No. For our church, they tell me about a third. It dropped a third from what it was the year before. For our church, our pastors got a pay cut. Little one, but we got a pay cut. And you're right. We didn't spend a lot. Like I try my best to use like most of my budget. I think I used like 20% of the budget last year. I didn't use it at all. But there's I don't know about your demographic. I don't know about your congregation, but we had some who the pandemic hit really hard. For us, because of that need, we started a new ministry called 5 Loaves, 2 Fish, where you come to church, you drop off any kind of water product or paper product or canned goods or anything that's non-perishable to the lobby. We had these big tables, and they filled it up with everything. Whatever you want, you drop it off, and if you are in need, if you got laid off, if you have sickness or whatever, and you need food or paper products, you can just come and pick it up. And so we created this non-direct, non-touching approach to kind of distribute food. That was established in March. It's still there. We're still doing it. So for some of our members, it hit it real hard, and so financially, we got hit hard. But like your church, I believe, our church, they own the building. It's an old church, and so we don't have that many expenses per se. So it was okay. I have not talked about how the budget is now or how the offering is now, but that's how. At least for last year, 1/3 was gone. Yeah, I thought too that'd be less offset, but for some reason, yeah, it was just how it is. Anybody else questions? What's the time like? There's no clock here, so I have no idea what's going on. Oh, perfect. Yeah. Um, prayer request for your church going into post-pandemic. What can we pray for your church specifically? What's the thing that you may be starting? I know onsite you said starting. You're gonna start coming back, but what are the big things coming up for this church post-pandemic that we should pray for?
Decision of the pastor.
Okay. Oh yeah. You're looking for an looking for an EM pastor. Okay. What else?
I think the transition, at least for me, something I'm kind of anxious of is transition to the hybrid children's ministry
Okay.
and what that's going to look like.
What grade do you teach?
I'm with third graders,
Okay.
so we're going to combine our third and fourth grade, and I'm going to go down to the kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Okay. Okay. Is kindergarten gonna be hybrid too? It is. Okay.
Kindergarten, first grade.
I see. Okay. Any other prayer topics?
Lay people, right? People to come and just kind of volunteer and help.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard Junior speak in a few meetings where he's like nobody wants to step up and commit right now in serving long term because they think it's like they're still not sure about what
Right.
they're committing to or whatnot. So yeah, that and just rest for those who have been
Mm.
consistently serving week in and week out, even amidst the pandemic. I think
Okay. That's a. If I can ask real quickly, because for me, that's like a phenomenon. This idea where because of the pandemic is this weight that just is just there. How is everyone's like energy level, or how's everyone's like spiritual like? Do you feel burnt out for those who've been serving through this pandemic? Do you feel like it's just been too like you need a break?
When it was started, one thing that I personally really liked was even the way when we start the worship and the meetings in June session, I saw the people doing the worship. So they really spend their energy and time and heart, at least that specific time they want to do for God on the Friday night. But then when it gets longer and longer and longer, and then it's time to come back to the in-person meeting and stuff. I don't know that would still continuously showing in the in-person worship or not. So we are not just people bringing the people into the church. We need to create a worship mode for people to spend their self and energy and heart when they come to the physical building. We have to no, yeah, we need to bring that kind of worship part into the building. So are we able to continue the momentum in the worship as a worship? That's something I always discuss with Pastor Sue and other staff that we are not just bringing the people to the building. We need to set up a worship setup. It's kind of new since it's been a while. We used to do everything at the time before the pandemic, but then now it's feel like we have to do something new. We need to figure out how to do hybrid and just in person, but can we really worship God? And everyone who's coming really is focusing on God during the worship. That's something we need to figure out. How can we do that as a leadership of the church?
That's a big challenge. Good prayer request too. I guess at this time, can we bow our heads in prayer? And a lot was talked about the pandemic. A lot was talked about the challenges of the upcoming weeks and months ahead. whatever conviction, whatever prayer request bothers you the most, pray for. Whatever makes you most anxious or worried, can we lift that up in prayer at this time? And after a couple minutes, I'll close us. Let's spend some time in prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you, Lord, so much for you are our God. You are our Father. You are sovereign. You are all powerful. You know us by name. You love us. You care for us. You do good things for us, Lord. And we know, Lord, that as you have done for your people countless times, that you will help us through every situation, that you never leave us nor forsake us, that you are our God. And so I pray, Lord, for this church, FKBC. As we go into the next weeks and months out of this pandemic, I pray, Lord, for your wisdom. I pray, Lord, for your discernment. I pray, Lord, for your guiding hand amongst all things. And I pray, Lord, that you would remind everyone here, as well as all those who pray to you, that you are that you have everything under control, and that they do not need to worry. We pray, Lord, against any fear, any anxiety, Lord, knowing that you are the foundation in which we stand upon and walk upon. And so you have gone before us. You know what's going to happen. And so you will guide our steps. And so we just need to trust in you because you've been so good to us. And so I want to lift up this church, bless this journey as they take it together. I pray, Lord, for moments of rest for those that need rest, moments of encouragement for those that need encouragement, moments of joy for those that need joy, moments of peace for those that need peace. I just pray, Lord, that in all things that they would be reminded of your goodness because you are good, as we were reminded of Jesus Christ and salvation and all the good things you've given us. We know, Lord, that you will continue to do good for us. And so I pray, Lord, for that strength to carry this church forward, Lord, as they make big decisions, as they make big transitions, Lord. We lift it all up to you, and we thank you, Lord. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you.